Remember that we have been working in the topic of heat. Recuerden que heat es calor o calentar. And when we talk about heat, we are talking about a moving energy or kinetic energy. What's the reason for calling heat a moving energy or kinetic energy? Well, remember that every time that we have heat, the molecules move like in the picture A. They are moving faster and they are moving apart. So just for you to remember that heat it's a kind of energy and it depends on the movement of the molecules in something. Remember also that the heat it's a type of kinetic energy. And when we have something cold, it's totally the other way around. In this case, the molecules are moving slow and they are closer in the space they are. So that doesn't happen in the case of the hot things. That's why these two sentences are false, because when we have hot things, the molecules are going to move faster and apart. You need to remember that heat, the molecules move faster and they move apart. If we go here, we're going to find the energy transfer. Remember that's when the heat it's going to change the temperature of the other one. And we saw three different types of heat that we have in a PowerPoint presentation that you have and that you have to be studying right now. Remember also that the different sources of heat that we were talking about were the sun, the chemical reactions, the geothermal energy, friction, electricity, all those are sources of heat. So we go here. Remember that the friction is one of those things that we can use as a source of heat. Also, well, we are going to move on here. Remember that we have a difference between heat and temperature. Recuerden que la temperatura como tal, measuring significa midiendo. Si nosotros usamos la palabra measured, vamos a ver como esta que aparece aquí, measured, eso significa la medida o medir. So the difference between heat and temperature is that heat it's the energy and the temperature it's how we measure that specific energy. So you need to have clear this on your mind. Heat it's the type of energy and temperature it's how you measure that energy. That's why we have here that heat and temperature are the same thing. That is false because that's not the same thing. Heat it's the energy, temperature, it's the measure. You need to remember that. Today, chicos, we're going to be working with the effects of heat, the consequences, what happens after we have heat. So if you see here in letter A, we're going to see which it's letter A. So you need to have your book and a pen or pencil so you can complete this. So it says the first one, you know that things have different states. Do you remember the three states? Solid, liquid, and gas. You can see this very clear in water. When water it's very cold, it's ice, which is solid states. When it's warmer, it's liquid. And when it's very hot, it's gas in the form of vapor or steam. Matter can change state because of temperature. Chicos, please underline this. This is extremely important. This is one of the first changes. I'm going to circle it here. Matter can change because of the temperature. So one of the things that we can change is the different states. I am circling this because that's important. So the first one that we're going to be writing here is the one of the effects of heat is the change Ve aquí tenemos bigger or smaller, change of state, going up, new combinations. In this case, it will be change of a state. If we go to letter B says, when something gets hot, its molecules move more and need more space. Remember that they move apart. Si se mueven aparte, si se mueven lejos de ellas, obviamente van a necesitar más espacio. So consequently, it gets bigger or expands. O sea, se hace más grande o se expande porque ocupan más espacio, puesto que no están juntas. We can see this well in a thermometer. The liquid inside expands as the temperature rises. When something gets cold, it gets smaller, except for the water, because with the water that doesn't happen. So this expansion, when something gets bigger, we are talking about, let's see the options for letter B. In the case of letter B, the question will be this one. Bigger or smaller? Bigger or smaller? In this case, remember that the change, the most common change that we're going to have in the heat, it's going to be this one. When we have heat, things are going to become bigger because they get bigger or they expand. It's important that you underline or highlight these parts that I am underlining. Then we are going to go with letter C. Letter C says, when a gas or liquid gets hot, it may go up or rise. Rise significa ir hacia arriba, levantarse. Salir, ¿verdad? Ir hacia arriba. Esto es importante que lo escriban por ahí. Rise significa levantar, levantarse. Since hot things expand, they become lighter, o sea, se hacen más livianas, lighter, than colder things. A clear example of how this works is a hot air balloon. When the air inside the balloon is warmer than the air outside, the balloon rises. When the air inside the balloon cools down, then the balloon starts to descend. So, chicos, usually when we have something that it's hot, that is going to go up. Se va a ir hacia arriba. So, in this case, letter C, bigger or smaller, we already use it. Change of state, we already use it. Going up, it's going to be the option. So, please write down that, going up. Going up, it's gonna be another effect of heat, another consequence of heat. And finally, we have the one that says new combination, which is already done. It's when heat can cause a reaction in things. O sea, cuando causa una reacción. For example, when you cook meat, like you can see it here in this picture, the meat, it's gonna change the color and the taste. O sea, el calor va a cambiar eso, el color y el sabor. This is because there is a reaction between the chemicals and they change to have new combinations. This is why we need to stay away from hot things because they will cook our skin in the same way as we cook meat. That's something that, I mean, it's true. If you don't take care of your skin with the heat, then we can have a chemical reaction. And that chemical reaction is not something that you want to experience, okay? Because you're going to have a lot of pain and you're going to have an injury in your skin. So if we go to activity number 6, okay, before we go to activity number 6, let's remember all this. Okay, we didn't underline here these parts. We're going to underline them or highlight. This is important here. When we have heat, things go up or they rise. And when we have heat, we have new combinations. Or we can underline this too. We have different reactions also. So remember, the different effects of here are change of state that we can have from solid to liquid or to liquid to gas. Those changes are caused by heat. Then we have when something has heat, remember that the molecules, they move faster and they move apart, so they need more space, and that's the reason why they become bigger. In the case of going up, remember that when something it's hot, it's going to go up, o sea, va hacia arriba, se levanta, it rises. And the last one, it's new combinations. The heat can transform something. Their appearance can be changed because of the heat, and not also the appearance. If we cook meat like we have it here, or any other type of food, the color, the texture, the taste, it's gonna change. So let's do activity number 5 over here. Let's see. Letter A says liquid water becomes ice when it gets colder. That one it's already done. Let's see. Letter B. The liquid in a thermometer becomes smaller or expands. What's the answer? Smaller or expands? The liquid on a thermometer becomes smaller or expands when it gets hotter. If we go here, chicos, remember that things become bigger or expand, and they give an example of the thermometer. So in this case, the answer, it's gonna be this one. I'm gonna have this. Expands. The liquid in a thermometer becomes smaller or expands. In that case, the answer is going to be expands when it gets hotter. Let's do letter C. Letter C says hot or cold gas rises because it's lighter. That reminds me of letter C. Letter C says that when something is hot, it's going to go up or it's going to rise. So in this case, chicos, when something rises, ve que aquí tengo esta palabrita, rises, es clave. Si algo se está levantando, that means that thing is going to be hot. So hot gas rises because it's lighter. Then we have letter D. Letter D says, a hot air balloon rises. Vea que aquí tengo otra palabrita. Quiere decir que hay calor por ahí. A hot air balloon rises because the air inside it changes state. En realidad no cambia el estado, sigue siendo aire, el aire que hay en el globo. What happens is that it expands. This is the answer. Please do it on your book. It expands. E, when you cook meat, it changes the state. Well, probably in some things that we cook, it can change the state, but it's not the case of the meat. In this case, there is going to be a chemical reaction. This is what it's going to happen. There is going to be a chemical reaction. So, chicos, here we have the different effects that heat can have. Remember when I asked you what will happen with a world with no movement? Well, I want you now to imagine what would happen if there were no heat in our world. What would happen? So please keep in mind that question. What would happen if there were no heat? I hope that you understood all these effects of heat, and after watching this video, I hope that you can have a nice day. Bye bye.